Greetings, Geechlings. Geechin Prime here with a theory for once, because I don't really do many of them, but this one's kind of been irking me now for a few days, and has been irking the One Piece community for, what, it's getting close to 2 years at this point, I guess. Close to it anyway. Is what is Big Mom's medical issues? And I think she has two of them. Um, be it that this is going to be a rambling kind of theory, so bear with me. I'll try and stay on track as well as my adult brain can allow. But uh, the two conditions that I believe she has, and they kind of fight with each other, which is why she's kind of all over the place at times. Sometimes she's very concise, a very determined person in her goals and ideals, and will stick to them and can command people to have them done. And then other times she's just a crazy, hunger driven monster. There's reasons for both of these. One is her actual personality, and the other one is an onset from her personality. Um, the first one, which is, I believe, the original problem she possibly, I don't know, is she has a monstrous metabolism that she's probably had most of her life, if not at least as early as 5 years old. But then, the other problem, which fights against it, is she has possibly type 1 diabetes, or the more likely option is type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is something that you'll get very early in your life, and then type 2 is something that you get a bit later, usually your 20s, if not later than that. Usually from bad diet, that's obesity is usually the main cause. It can happen from other reasons, but a good portion of it is always that. And as we know, Big Mom is the big fat woman. She's not called Big Mom for no reason, and she's always been big. So that's why I think maybe it's more type 1, possibly, but it's hard to say. We don't really know. But with this, if it how these two fight is okay, her body is constantly burning any calories, carbohydrates, everything that she consumes. We kind of saw how that worked during like the 12 hours that she didn't get to eat. So she diminished her body weight immensely, which normal people do not do this. That's why I say it's not just like a high metabolism, it is a monstrous metabolism. Even more than Luffy, who can burn off fat in minutes. But part of that, he could have a monstrous metabolism as well. Manga logic could be too, but with hers it was over a much longer period, so it's a little more believable than Luffy, which was probably more of a gag. Um, but where this falls into play is that she lost all that weight, but then she almost immediately gains it back when she ate the cake finally in chapter 900. And yeah, for how much she actually ate, that cake was more than, I'd say, close to 5 times her size when she was fat. So where did it all go? And she didn't use the bathroom, or otherwise that beach would look like Normandy. So it ain't gonna be pretty if that was the case. I think she burned it off. the monstrous metabolism. But the diabetes plays into another thing. What is the most common condition we've seen this woman have? Her unbelievable rages when she gets hungry. That's because her body has burned off enough to where her blood sugar has just plummeted. And while I'm not an expert on diabetes at all, it's something I've experienced a lot in my life because both my mother, my grandmother, and my uncle all have diabetes. Two of them are type 1 and the other is type 2. So I've seen a fair range of it, and I've seen the many personalities that you gain when you have low blood sugar, and one that you've gained when you have high blood sugar, which is probably not something Big Mom incurs a lot because of her metabolism. But with that, the most common trait is her rage. Well, my uncle did a similar thing at least once when he had low blood sugar. Upon being calling the paramedics to assist, he threw one of them across the room. And his, kind of stupor, because you don't know anything that's going on when you're in such a state, which is actually plays into another reason why Big Mom probably has this condition. She does not remember anything that happens in these states, and no one chooses to tell her, because then who knows what she would do with that information. Probably, maybe she would kill herself. Who knows? It's like, I've killed my own children. Though that's not quite the case, as we saw in the last chapter, but, at least in the moment. But, so we have the rage factor. Be it not everyone experiences this every time, but it could just be her main go-to condition. Also, the lack of memory, which is another thing that's always been the case every time I've had to help bring my mother and grandmother back up to a state of consciousness, essentially, because they start to shut down, which Big Mom doesn't quite do that, which this could just be Oda not fully understanding the full, like, gambit of things that happen to low blood sugar, people in such a state. But I've seen it more than enough times to know that it can kind of go all over the place. You have memory loss, rages, just like not wanting to do anything, which also happens at high blood sugar. So diabetes is a mystery, let me tell you. But then we have some selective memory. Because in the case of my grandmother, one time a few years ago, I was out of the house at the time when they realized she had low blood sugar at the time, and she wasn't quite all there anymore. She didn't even know what was going on anymore. But she did remember I wasn't in the house and wanted to know where I was. So that, I've theorized about this on my own time, as maybe like one of the last thoughts they had in their mind before their mind and cognitive thought went down. That's all they're going to remember. Because there have been a few instances where my mom will remember like the last thing that happened, and then for 30 minutes after that, she doesn't remember anything else until it started going back up. And this is somewhat coherent with Big Mom's conditioning. She doesn't remember anything during her rages. So, but she did remember that cake. See where I go with it. And that's all she really had. And sometimes she would eat some things, like she was trying to find the cake and all that. So maybe some of that turned into sugar for her, be it some of it was not food, but so we'll discount that. But maybe brought her up enough to where she had some cognitive thought regained. Hence why she said, it's like, I'll kill you, Perospero, if you're lying to me. Normally that wouldn't seem to be the case. Otherwise she'd just be like, wedding cake, wedding cake. So, yeah. I don't fully know exactly when she might have gotten the diabetes. As I stated before, it could have been not long after she started, eating more sweets, because her parents might have only kept her, like, giving her the little candies that we saw in the flashback, one to kind of top her off in between meals and stuff, because of her metabolism, which might have gone up as she got older and was consuming more food. So then her body was like a furnace, even more so, and it just kept burning. It's like, oh, you give me fuel, oh, I give you fire, you know? So, yeah. And it just kind of ramped up over time, and now she's the monster that she is now. And yeah, I just think that's what she is. It's just high metabolism, burning off everything she eats, and then she hits a low. And then she goes into a rage, which is, as I said, is a somewhat personality kind of trait that you gain when you go low. Not for everyone and not every situation, but can happen where you become more aggressive. And then the selective memory, the loss of memory entirely, all of it corresponds with, ask anyone who's diabetic and they will tell you some of these things do link up quite well. Like I said, not a doctor. And this is only based on my own personal experiences with diabetes and such. So obviously, consult a doctor if you had any questions about it. Don't fully, I'm kind of anecdotal in this regard. Um, Itchy nose, sorry. But yeah, that's just kind of what I've thought in the last few days since the chapter came out. And then the what kind of struck me was that after she ate the cake, she, like she was like, ah, this is good. But it didn't last. But it is a condition when you get into high blood sugar levels, is that you don't really want to do anything. And she was very content. That could just be written off as the effects of the cream and all that stuff. So that's why I went more with the low blood sugar. And that's about it for the theory. But anyway, overall, sorry for the ramble. Like I said, I didn't go with a script or anything, so I just ramble. But thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Keishan Prime, and I'll see you next time. Keishlings, roll out.